This is Duke University.
1989 was strangely destabilizing for that particular intellectual world in ways that I think we're still trying to think about. 9/11, of course, in many respects even more so, in terms of demonstrating a new politics of globalization. And that leaves us, I think, in an intellectual world where we want to cling to Europe as a manifestation of a particular form of identity. And that was, I think, very explicit in the rhetoric that surrounded the demonstration in Paris last Sunday. People might complain, I noticed in newspapers yesterday, that Obama wasn't there. No, this wasn't an event about Obama. Thankfully, Putin wasn't there either. It was about Europeans, a particular European middle class, espousing certain European ideas of a certain sort of secular liberalism and of pluralism, which actually sits rather with some difficulty with the whole journal, Charlie Hebdo, that comes from a very different place that I wouldn't particularly place in a liberal sphere or indeed on the left, but is a particular post-68 sphere. But what you got there in that mobilization in Paris was the reworking of certain notions of liberal mobilization that to me felt like in many respects an attempt to try and get back to some sort of intellectual good old days, which have in fact gone, and demonstrations won't bring them back. Thank you very much.
My name's Julie Harpin. I work at the Duke Islamic Studies Center and edit a blog called Islamic Commentary. I was particularly interested, of course, in the last comments that you made and the comments about a potential reemergence of Le Pen, for president eventually. You mentioned UKIP. What we've seen going on in Germany and France in the last couple weeks. Do you see, what is the trajectory? Do you see a rise in the success of these far-right parties? Where's this all headed, do you think?
Yeah, I tend not to do futurology, but let me say two or three things. One that first occurs to me is I think the terminology of far right is now outdated. They were far right parties somewhere back in the 1990s. They're not anymore. They are a new pole of a certain sort of nationalist politics that certainly in the case of the Front National, the National Front in France, has acquired an ability to talk left as well as talk right, and that has been part of its electoral success. So they're a new sort of nationalist populist politics. One consistent element of them has been this hostility to immigrants. If you hear Le Pen and others talking in a more, frankly, intelligent way about all of this, I think what's been more obvious is that they remain very strongly opposed to immigration and its impact on the coherence of West European societies. They're no longer as strongly opposed to Islam. In many respects, I think what one is getting here is about the idea that we need to decouple hostility to immigrants from hostility to Islam. And instead, as one saw in the demonstration on Sunday, you see almost the opposite on the centre-left in European politics, where hugging immigrants goes hand in hand with a reinforced language about the differentness, the otherness of Islam. And what made me slightly concerned, I think, about the mobilization at the weekend was the idea that I can't, in my own mind, be sure that we aren't moving towards some sort of redefinition of Europe against an Islamic other, even when we may be, as I put it glibly, we may be hugging the migrants in our own midst. We may be trying to reassert some sort of European nationalism, a sort of liberal European nationalism, which I think really belongs to a past and certainly doesn't provide any future for Europe. But there I'm just being, in some respects, a little polemical.